So I'm Fahad from AlwaysPrepped. This is not me. This is Mr. Jin Su. He's learning this for the first time right now as well. He's a 6th grade math teacher in Washington, D.C. He's a friend, Teach for America alum, and he's been teaching for several years. And like a lot of the people you'll meet today, here's another one. That's a teacher that's really enamored with online education technology tools, right? He uses Khan Academy in his classroom to watch videos, do some assessment stuff, because some kids like it, some kids don't, you know, but it's a great tool for him to use in the classroom. He also uses Edmodo to post those tools and assignments on his class right through the site. He uses Manga High because he likes to play, his classroom likes to challenge other classrooms in math games and so forth, right? He uses Study Island because his school requires it. He uses Mastery Connect to connect it with state standards. He uses Kickboard to manage some of the data. Everyone's starting to laugh in here because it seems like that kind of resonates with teachers. Is that accurate to say? Awesome, I think. There are a lot of tools out here. And actually, I actually wrote a quick note. While Marshall was talking, he mentioned a bunch of companies as well. You mentioned Revolution Prep, Achieve 3000, ST Math, Khan Academy, and Better Lessons, right? So the point being, where does Mr. Ha really, where does Mr. Ha really focus his attention? And that's really the point behind AlwaysPrepped and what we're trying to solve, right? While kids are using all of these tools, what's the most important part? We heard him say for 10 minutes that the data being collected and how you can act on it is the most important part. We learned that, well, Mr. Ha helped us learn that the data is all over the place, right? He's got 30 kids. He teaches 3 periods. He's on 20 platforms. That's 20 times 90 times every single login they do and every single data point. That's tons and tons of data points. What we want to do for him, because he already doesn't have enough time, we want to simplify that process. We want to give him the most important metrics from all of these accounts on a single dashboard so he can act immediately without doing any extra work. So in this example, his Khan Academy account is connected, his Study Island account is connected, his Khan Academy account is connected, and we actually wanted to make it really simple, which is why I'm showing you this page. You know, he is also connected now on Khan Academy with a click of a button, right? We'll pull all his data, we'll get all of his information, and then we'll go to the page where all the magic happens, right? So here's a single dashboard. Mr. Ha logs in. It's a beautiful interface. It shows him exactly how he's performing as a teacher across the board. It gives him a bunch of filtering ranges by week, by hour, his periods, the classes he wants to use, and most importantly, it tells him which students to focus on across the board. And he hasn't done any extra work. The kids haven't done any extra work, nothing. It also tells him who's doing well, and maybe there's a kid that's 100% across the board who needs to be pushing the gifted programs and so forth. But for example, you come in here, he's looking at Kristen Barnes, right? Kristen's averaging 70%. She's struggling in the classroom. I want to intervene before she falls into the red. So let's see what's happening with Kristen's account. He comes into Kristen's account. He can see exactly what she's doing on Khan, on Edmodo, on Study Island, all these other sites that we're going to be connected to, and see exactly where she's performing well related to Common Core standards and where she's doing poorly, right? So the first step is really aggregating all of this useful information where a teacher can react quickly. But the really interesting thing that starts to happen with AlwaysPrepped is actually the overlay of the data, right? Right now, all of these systems exist on their own in silos, if you will, right? What's interesting is, for example, Class Dojo was mentioned earlier. It's a behavior tracking tool. There are several of them, but we like them. What if he knows Kristen's dog died and her parents are getting divorced, right? What if he could overlay behavioral data now with academic data and intervene before something really goes wrong? Now we start to see interesting correlations with what's happening in the classroom, not just from an academic standpoint, but from a psychological standpoint, from a social standpoint, and so forth, which is, if you talk to enough teachers, that's a massive issue, especially in elementary schools and middle schools across the board, not to mention high schools as well, but it's a little easier to track when you're younger. We're talking tens of millions of kids in this country alone that have these kind of concepts and issues. Lastly, if Mr. Ha goes back to his dashboard, it's not just reading data. Marshall actually mentioned Achieve 3000. I swear I didn't throw this in my demo in the last 5 minutes. What if you could overlay reading data with math data, right? That now becomes super important, especially where we come from, DC, ground zero of education. When I heard you say 75% of kids pass, I immediately thought in DC it's 75% of kids fail. In DC, it's actually 80% of kids are not on grade level in math and reading. So I'm going to finish with a quick story and lessons learned here. Quick lessons, and I'm going to tie this into my story. Teachers have very little time is what we learned, right? They're teaching, they're doing planning. They have very little time for professional development as well. We can't go around telling them how to use all these different products and teaching them the nuances. And imagine learning Excel all over again with every feature. That's why we've designed something super simple for them to use, right? So I'm going to finish with my story. In DC, I was testing a math product out. We were trying it on a bunch of kids, third graders. And I saw this one little girl in a row of laptops. She was just sitting there. She tried it, bombed the first quiz. Let's call her Kristen. It might actually be her real name, but Barnes isn't her last name. So I walked over. I asked her if she needed some help. And she said, yeah, sure. So I started working through the problems with her. And as I'm going through the math concepts and reading the problems, I recognized she wasn't reading along with me. But when I read her the math problem, she counted and got the answers right. She did fine on the math part. Her problem was she didn't know how to read in third grade. And there's no way to understand that unless we have all the data synchronized in one place, which is exactly the types of problems we're trying to solve for teachers, administrators, and principals. Now, the last point I want to leave everyone with is, are people going to give you data, right? That was the first question we asked. We found 91 different companies with open APIs, SIS systems, integration systems. If half of them were to disappear tomorrow, we could still reach every teacher and student in America immediately. It's always prepped.
So Marshall, obviously this one is most targeted to you. What are your thoughts?
Trying to get a little better sense of, how often do you see teachers, is this a regular tool every day, jumping in kind of with a lesson plan they deliver that day? Is it once a week reflecting? What are you seeing in terms of the usage of it from a teacher's perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. We actually want them using it every day. Why not several times a day if we're creating an iPad app, right, with this interface? As you notice, there's no input required from the teacher. So it's all about consumption of the data and actions on it. And as the system grows and as we grow as a company, we're only going to make it smarter, right? So you can intervene before something even happens with behavior or reading or math or something else. You can talk to other teachers. All kinds of great stuff. So we want to focus entirely on consumption and not just the input of the data. So it makes their lives easier.
What wasn't clear to me is that you had the weighting of the different kids, and you saw the 65 and the 50% and whatnot. And when you drilled into Kristen Barnes, you saw a number of different areas, and you saw Khan where she was failing miserably. But how do you establish that overall weighting? And do you have or the overall ranking? And do you have different weights applied to different areas of study? I mean, that seems like it could be.
So that's a great question because teachers like to weight things differently, right?
Yeah, right.
There's a default 0 out of 100, 90 is an A, 80 is a B, and so forth, right? That's a default standard we know about globally, right? But we ultimately want to allow teachers to create their own systems, right? Because you actually want to maybe weight different students differently, right? If the super smart kids are being weighted as the kids who are in remedial stuff, it's not helpful. But we can easily build in features and functionality that allow them to set these preferences. Well, they're not doing it all the time.
Right.
They do it once, and it's set, and they're good to go for that school year.
But today you're just averaging out all the different
That's
numbers.
correct.
Okay, so there's no weighting applied to that.
So
That's
you're
correct.
saying that behavior and performance on some math or reading makes that weighted number somehow?
Yeah, I mean, because all of these systems actually are on a scale of 0 to 100, which is really helpful, right? Even with behavior, Class Dojo, if you guys are familiar with it, it's on a scale of 0 to 100, 100 being
But
awesome
you're
behavior.
averaging math, reading, and behavior.
Today.
Is behavior equal to math and reading, or is it 10%, or is it just a side issue?
That's the question.
It should absolutely be weighted. Let me preface my answer with that. I think over time, as we build out these tools, it's just going to get smarter. Yeah. But for day one, for private launch, we just wanted to get the system up and running in that way and give people a sense of exactly what they can expect down the line.
Robert, what do you think?
My kids go to Silicon Valley area schools, and we don't yet have our kids to the level where they're doing this kind of online learning. How many classrooms, what percentage of classrooms do you think in the next 12 months, 18 months are going to be even a potential customer of yours?
Well, so that's a good question. I think first of all, there are millions and millions of teachers using this platform. Kids don't use our stuff. This is for teachers right now.
I know, but the kids, how many kids in a classroom are using Khan Academy, for instance?
We think Khan Academy has a market penetration of probably 80%.
At home, but in the classroom? I'm not sure it's that
growing,
high.
But that's the beauty of our product is there are tons of other products that, like Achieve 3000, you guys use it all over LA, right? We use it all over DC,
Right, so
Study
Robert's
Island,
point
and so
is,
forth.
How many schools and administrators would be able to use this today? Are you too far ahead?
Yeah.
Is his question.
I don't know.
I mean, this seems like the product that would be built 5 years from now.
Yeah.
That was my first. Your exact reaction was mine, which is, my God, this is so far ahead. This is like having Mint before people have online bank accounts.
Yeah.
You know,
I think there's enough market penetration right now, globally even, because we don't have to be stuck in the States, where we can reach tens of millions of people, teachers, that are actually using online tools.
and in a way, Robert, the way I reconciled it was, if Mint existed, it would probably drive people to get their online banking password, right?
I'm really excited by this. But I know talking to teachers and going into schools every day that most schools are not close to this yet.
Well, the cool thing is we're also building a parent this could easily be a parent dashboard, right? And that's really where the subscription modeling and revenue comes in. Imagine having an instant report card of your kid.
The consumerization of teaching.
There you go. So that's
Well, it could be free to schools and then paid to parents.
That's exactly right.
Wow.
No, it's the Yammer model. It's the other way. Free to the parents.
Free to parents. And
Paid to the administrators when the parents all force the teachers to get up to date.
Yeah,
right?
why aren't you managing our
We'll
Yammer
donate
account?
a few iPads for
Christine,
the
what do you
school,
think? Does
right?
this seem like something that's investable by 500 startups, something you'd be interested in taking a second meeting?
I think so. I mean, I did have one question, which was,
Sure.
you might have mentioned this in your presentation, but how many apps do you integrate with right now?
So we're only launching with Khan Academy and NGrade. They both have open APIs.
Okay.
But over the summer, so we're launching into private beta today. So if you want to get on the list, go for it. We'll be rolling out these invites slowly over the summer months.
Okay.
And by the beginning of the 2012-2013 school year, we're actually talking to a lot of these companies and trying to partner with them. They're excited about it too because it gives their apps discovery, right? So we hope to have 10 to 15 by the start of the school year. That's our goal.
Ted, the Social Capital Partnership, which you co-founded, has hundreds of millions of dollars in capital and a stated goal of going after disruptive education technologies. Does this look like a company that you would want to take another meeting with or potentially invest with?
Yeah, I mean, I have the similar concerns of not, I don't know what the right number of connected apps you need for this to really deliver value.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably above 3, maybe even 4 to really have the aggregation work. So that's a concern for me. And then, you know, we always have concerns of looking at companies that have kind of core dependencies on other platforms.
Sure.
And it would I'd have a question about how much you control your own destiny in that way.
I think our proprietary stuff's when we can start to overlay the data, but your points are very well taken.
Second meeting candidate or not? Follow-up meeting
I think
candidate?
it'd be a little early.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
little early.
By the way, I can't get your website, so check that out when you get off stage.
We'll do.
I would just agree also from I think the only question is the timing. So teachers are going to need a tool like this. Do we need to scaffold them up or are they ready for it now? Because they're still kind of getting their arms around just taking 1 or 2 pieces of data. But it's going to be essential in the future in terms of a simple, easy, user-friendly way to look at all this data is going to be a guaranteed win in the marketplace at some point. It's a question of when, but you got to
Is there
start
a
now to get
teacher in the
there.
audience who had a thought on this? Oh, yes. Pass, wait for the, we have the live stream. We need to get your voice.
Yeah, I'm a teacher in
Where?
Antioch High School, and that's the first website I've looked at today. That woke me up. Not that the other ones put me to sleep.
Thank
but,
you.
We desperately need that, and obviously the lack of third-party companies is the issue at start. But I would switch my grade book to whatever you had so that I had all of the data in one place.
Wow,
Yep.
high praise. Another teacher with a comment? Okay.
Thank you.
Wow, I got to get these teachers involved. Glad we invited teachers.
Actually, I'm not a teacher, but I run a 300-family group of independent learners, i.e. homeschoolers, and I'd like to encourage you to maybe tap into our market because in a lot of ways we're further ahead than the institutions on learning all these tools, and we really are in quite desperate need of ways to consolidate our information.
Great.
So I would say don't forget about the direct-to-consumer market, too.
Awesome. Wow,
Thank
it's
you.
great. I didn't even consider that. Let's take one more piece of feedback from the audience. And you don't get to pick from the toy box. I won't.
I'm actually a CIO for a network of charter schools, and literally this product is something I've been dreaming about for months. It's
Thank
the
you.
number one thing holding us back from sort of what we want to be as a network of schools is not
should
having
talk.
a tool that integrates the data. I'm really excited about this right now. I've spent 3 hours in the last 2 days talking with people about what can we do in an interim until a product like this exists. So I'm excited.
Thank you very much.
Wow, high praise. High praise the teacher. Okay, so Ted, second meeting, yes or no? Now that you've heard from the teachers. That's a yes.
I like that feedback. That's good feedback.
All right, so I got you to meet with Ted. Alan,
you.
is this the type of company you would incubate?
It's a little bit early, but that's the kind of company that we would tend to incubate, somebody who's on the early side. I mean, initially I was skeptical about it because I know some of those companies, and you're going to have normalization problems. You also made a statement that didn't sound exactly right to me, which is until you have this data, how will you know? But when talking to teachers, most teachers and respects to the teachers who are out here, they'll know when the kid isn't reading. I mean, if they generally know these things. I mean, you tell me as teachers whether or not you're going to be aware of these things. So I do wonder about the value of the raw data and whether it's going to really add any value.
All I know is 3 teachers just jumped out of their seat.
Yeah.
I love it. So I think I'm going to go with the teachers, not the VCs on this one.
Yeah.
All due respect. And I think we're going to have to add an award, which is teacher/home educator favorite. So we're going to have another award. Only teachers and home educators can vote on it. So teachers and home educators, you get to pick your favorite.
As a parent, I'd love to have a parent version of this view to know if my kid's staying up to the class standard or falling behind, so I can help my kid, hey, do more homework than not play Call of Duty so much.
Right.
All right, any other feedback? All right, big
Thank you
round of
very much.
applause. Big entrepreneurs changing the world. Yes, very good.